Hey everybody, today we are going to do some acrylic painting techniques. All right, I have out my 2-color blend spread and I used some masking tape to block off the sections. Normally we would do 20 different techniques, but one of them we've already done. So we can completely skip that. And the other, I just don't have. So I didn't bring those at home, and I just don't have those available for you. So the first thing you're going to do is take some masking tape. And as you can see, I have a little bit of lint on it. So you're going to peel it off and then stick it on your clothing so you have a little bit of lint, and then you're going to make some strips all the way down. I put them in the seam first because I don't want it to bleed through. When it bleeds through, then your pages are going to get stuck and it's going to be a disaster. So I got this ready to rock and roll. So I've got 9 on this side and 9 on the other side. So that's the first thing you need to do. Okay, the second thing you need to do is to get out all of your materials. So everybody will be receiving one of these acrylic painting techniques page. It does list them 1 through 20, but like I said, we're only going to do 18 of them. And you're going to use this as a guide along with my example when I finish it, and along with the big poster example that I'm going to have up on the board. So now that we have our book all set up and our paper, we are also going to have some paints. We're going to have a water cup. I always like to use a solo cup when I'm home, and then a variety of brushes. When you are doing our different squares, I like to use a big flat brush because I'm going to be able to do all of the blending and all of the different techniques in my squares a lot faster than if I was using a smaller brush. Okay, so now that I've got different types of brushes, let me see. I don't have the brush that I really like at school. Let's try, well, I'm still going to do it with the flat brush, and I'll just do it very boxy. So I'm going to use a smaller flat brush, and I need to write a title. So every time we do anything like this, we need to have a title, especially when we're painting. Let me move all of my brushes out of the way and tilt this because I'm not going to be able to see it. So I think I'm going to go with my blue and write acrylic techniques. I think I'm just going to write acrylic, and then I'm going to write techniques over here. You don't need to write painting, but you need to write acrylic. And for me, this cursive font seems to work out really well. Acrylic. Okay, so I will do that, but I definitely need a smaller brush to write out techniques. Okay. Same thing that we did with when we did our watercolor techniques. Very similar. Tech N I Q U E S. Okay, now this all needs a second coat. Oh, you weren't able to see that. Sorry. There it is, Acrylic Techniques. I'm going to give this a second coat. And you have a variety of brushes in front of you. Acrylic. What's nice about the flat brushes is it kind of gives it a little bit of a calligraphy vibe, if you like calligraphy. And I dipped into this square a little bit. That's okay. This one's okay. I'll just paint over it, because that one is blending, so I'll probably just use blue, and I'll write over this in silver. All right, let me go back to my tiny brush. Make sure that you can see that. Techniques. Tech. And same thing here with the Q. Just trying to be careful not to dip in to this square. I will make sure that I do not do that when I make my posters for all of you. And you can use different colors, you can just use the same color, whatever you want. Okay. Oh, I need to dot my I. And I'm going to dot my I here. Okay, so let me turn it this way. Now that I have my title, I am going to start off with square number 1. Okay, and square number 1 is a wash. So when I look at my paper, it says I could treat acrylic like watercolor when you dilute the paint with enough water. So I already have paint, this blue paint, so I might as well just start like this and go horizontally, and I'm just going to add some water. So I'm going to do a wash that goes like this. And I'm going to go all the way from the left side to the right side. So I can add just a little bit more paint. But again, I'm treating this like it's a watercolor, and add a little bit more water to activate it. Remember, we have to use water to activate watercolors. So I'm just moving my paint like that. Okay, really could use just a tiny bit more paint. But this is my number 1. This is my wash over top of it. Okay? That's number 1. Number 2 is a blend. It is a 2-color blend to create a gradation. And what does that mean? That means you want to go from one color to the next very seamlessly. And I'm going to use another plate to dry off my brush. Okay, so let's go with, can't use yellow, so let's go with red into the blue. Okay, I want to make sure that you can see that. So I'm going to do red, and that's okay that I went over my Y. I'm going to do a little bit of red. And when I blend red with blue, I will get, hopefully, purple. So I'm going to take a little bit of my blue, and I'm going to put it over here, and then blend blend it all the way down. Okay, now just like when we did this 2-color blend, we definitely need to add a lot more red. So I'm going to get some more red, and I'm going to put it over and blend it right here. And see, there's my purple. It's a little bit lighter than what I wanted it to be, but that's okay because I blended it, I changed the intensity, and so far it's pretty seamless. I need to get rid of all this extra red paint. I'm really trying to cover up my Y here. Okay. Now this particular type of paint that I'm using at home is not covering as well as I would like it to, but I think that's because I just need to do a bunch of layers of this paint. When you use acrylic paint, you have to build and build and build upon your layers. So that is already the blue that I am liking. I just need a little bit more red. And again, you keep blending until you're happy with it. Make more red. Okay, I'll come back to this later because I feel like I need to add another layer of red because I can see the yellow. Okay, so that's a 2-color blend. Next is a tint. And when we do tints, we need to mix a color with white. So since I was using a lighter blue, I'm going to use a darker blue. And I'm going to put the darker blue down here and then add the white to the top. So this hopefully should cover kind of nicely. That's a lot better. Okay. Then what I'm going to do is add some white over top of it. And yeah, see, and blend it up. Okay. Now what I need to do is take some white to blend it down. Okay. Take some white and hit the top here and blend it down so it fades nicely into the blue. See how that's starting to fade kind of nice into the blue? And then I could blend it up a little bit. And I'm probably going to stop there because I'm happy with the way that that looks. But I need a little bit more dark blue to just blend up at the top. Okay. Okay. So that is a tint. We went from the original color all the way up to a nice tint of blue. Now let's move to shade. So shade's the opposite. We're going to put the darker color down here and then we're going to fade it up to the actual color. Now, this is a little bit tricky because it's blue and green. So we don't want to use, we don't want to use red. So I think I'm going to try yellow on here, but my fear is that it's going to look blue. So let's try the red. Let's start with black at the bottom. Okay, because black might be the only color that's going to cover my blue. And then we will add some red to it and fade it up. Okay. Remember, anytime that we're doing a shade, that means we're adding black to the color. Okay. So let's see how this is going to work. It's not covering the best because this is already green, but it is getting darker and we are fading it up. And that's some of the reason why I really wanted you guys to have the tape. Okay. Okay, we need some more red. And yours may look different depending on what colors you have. Like if you have a red and yellow background, this might be a little bit more challenging for you to do. So we have this. And while I have red paint, I'm going to come back over here because this definitely needed another coat. And then I'm going to add a little bit more black and fade it up. There we go. All right, so that is shade. And it's already starting to look a little bit better. Just need a tiny bit more black. Tiny bit more black. Actually, I'll have to wait till that dries to do that again because it looks like I need another coat. But that is how you would do a shade. Now, the dry brush is the next one. And you are going to apply a small amount of paint to the tip of your brush and just start streaking it across the paper. So all the lines are going to be even and rough, but this is a purposeful painterly effect. Okay, so let me see where it has to be dry. That brush is not dry, but this brush is dry. It's a tiny brush, and what I'm going to do is just kind of make like a little bit of a firework, and I'm going to do it in a color that hopefully will let me make some fun swirls. And kind of make different patterns. So I never wet my brush to change. I'm just kind of making a firework here. Let me see. Maybe I'll do kind of like a Superman kind of vibe. Okay, so that is dry brush. I never rinsed it. There you go. Firework. Firework. Kind of all over the place. Okay, so that's dry brush. Now, stippling is going to go here, and that is a bunch of tiny dots. And I know that we talked about Seurat's La Grange Afternoon. That is the Sunday afternoon where they're all sitting on the grass. I actually had a credit card with that painting on it once upon a time. But stippling is just a bunch of tiny, tiny dots, which you can use to create something, or you can just make a whole bunch of tiny dots to create either an object or to create something amazing. I'm just gonna quickly make a heart. This brush is not the best to do this, but it's the smallest brush I have. Okay, so however you do this in tiny dot form is completely okay. You can make a shape, you can make an initial, you can do an object. I'm probably going to add another color to this, but you can do whatever you would like as long as you are making tiny dots. Teeny, teeny, tiny dots. Okay, I think, let me see, I think I'm going to go to another color. Okay, let's add some dark blue. As you can see, you can have a lot of fun playing with this and going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, doing lots of tiny dots. And I'm probably going to go back in with my yellow and add some more on top of the blue. So again, this is a painstaking process that you can do or not. As long as you are dabbing these little tiny stippling dots, that is a-okay with me. I think I'm going to get this in here, add a little bit more blue around here. So you can get really into this. Okay, I'm going to add a little bit of white over here. And then I'm going to add some more yellow. So again, that is stippling. And we're really taking our time with all of these different techniques because you can use them when we do our final painting. Okay. Good enough. I'm going to stop right there with my heart. Shh. Shh. All right, I'm going to stop right there with my heart. And now I'm going to move to number 7, which is splattering. And we all know how to do splattering. Okay, that's when let me move this a minute. That's when we do this with our brush. And we have done this so many times before. So I'm going to use a little bit of a bigger brush. And just kind of, actually that bigger brush doesn't work. Let's go to my little smaller brush. Let me see. I'm going to try my flat brush actually. That might work. The bigger brush did not work. So scratch that on the bigger brush. Let's try some splattering. Okay, that worked. Let's grab a little bit of this blue. And you're going to keep splattering. Actually, I think I need to stand up to do this. And make sure that I have enough paint on my brush. But Mrs. G is failing at this. And you just need to make sure that you are definitely splattering like this. And I'll have a finished example for you later. Now, the next thing is dabbing or splotting. So, we're going to need a sponge. And what we're going to need to do is dab just little accents of color. And I need to wet my sponge a little bit to do so. And what I'm going to do is take my sponge, dip it in the paint, and I'm only going to use a corner of it and then just like adding texture or adding just a little bit of like oomph to it. So I'm going to just do a little bit of that. And maybe I'll come over here. Okay. And then with my other side, I think I'm going to come back and get a little bit of green. Come back in. Okay. And then maybe I'll get a little bit of this dark blue. But I'm going to keep going. And we have done sponging before, so you all know how to do that. But I could keep going and then adding layers upon layers upon layers. But it adds, you see the texture that I'm already doing, and I added texture right there. I'm going to keep going. I'm going to dip into my green and then add a little bit more. But I'm starting to get a whole bunch of texture right here. And I need a little bit of yellow. And I'm going to come in and finish it off so it kind of looks like that. Okay, so that is dabbing or blotting. And then the last one that we're going to do here in part 1 is sponging. Now, this was dabbing, but sponging, what you can do is you can do this, you can do this, you can do this. I already had an awful lot of paint on here, so there's a lot of things that you can do with this amazing sponge. So I'm going to kind of make like a star firework-ish coming out of here. Okay, then I'm going to go back and into my blue and add a couple different colors. Okay, so these are the first 9 painting techniques. And I'm going to finish this up, and then I'm going to go back over with some paint to kind of fix a little bit of my mistakes. And then I will be back for part 2.